Good evening. It is Tuesday, October 25th at 7 p.m., our nightly meeting. We have a full slate of commissioners. We have the administrator, the interim administrator, and the clerk of the board. So at this time, I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the pledge. I Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the commissioner meeting minutes from October 4th and October 11th. Is there any additions, revisions, or corrections? With that, we'll move down to Proclamation National Adoption Day. National Adoption Day Proclamation by the Board of Commissioners of Franklin County, Washington. Whereas the County of Franklin County recognizes the importance of giving children permanent, safe, and loving families through adoption, and whereas the National Adoption Day is a collective national effort to raise awareness of more than 110,000 children in foster care. Waiting for a permanent and loving families. Whereas to help these children find permanent, nurturing families, the Benton and Franklin County Superior Court will open its doors on National Adoption Day, Friday, November 18th, 2022, to finalize the adoption of local children and join other organizations to create or to celebrate all adoptions. And whereas this effort, along with similar celebrations in all 50 states around the country, will offer children the chance to live with stable and loving families and encourage other dedicated individuals to make a powerful difference in the lives of a child through adoption. Now, therefore, I, Clint Didier, Chairman of the Franklin County Commissioners, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim November 18th, 2022 as National Adoption Day in this country, and in doing so, urge all citizens to join in a national effort to raise awareness about the importance of adoption. So I think with the consensus of the commissioners, we can all sign this. Any words from other commissioners?
I'll just add a quick note that regardless of where you are on the right to life issue, adoption is a wonderful thing. And I think it's just a rich opportunity, and we should be doing whatever we can to make it as easy as possible for families to do just that, adopt children in need. Thanks.
I would agree. It's just a sad state we live in, that there's so many children that are out there waiting for adoption, and we should do everything we can to expedite the process.
Next, we'll move down to the office business. I believe we have one voucher.
Move for approval of fund expenditures in the total amount of $1,145,241.39 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by 2 representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll move down to the consent agenda. There are 5 items on the consent agenda.
Move for approval of the consent agenda is presented, 5 items, no discussion.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the 5 items on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll move down to the Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, it's been a good week with Dwayne meeting all of the elected officials and department heads, kind of getting an update on some things that are current. Participated in a couple of follow-up meetings with our counterparts in the cities in Benton County regarding several outstanding issues that will be ongoing, the Mental Health Advisory Committee, and working toward approval of a Veterans Court in Franklin County and some other issues. So those will just continue, and I hope we'll see some success down the road with those.
Commissioner Peck?
A little different week with budget workshop scheduled every day but yesterday due to the exercise. Do have a State County Road Administration Board meeting in Skagit County this week, but I'm here for the budget workshop, believing that how we spend our constituents' money has to be one of our highest priorities. Also, the Washington County's Risk Pool meeting in Puget Sound area this week. It's unfortunate that these budget workshops overlaid these, but again, view the budget and the workshop as high priority. Did meet with the, by phone with the health director, Mr. Zakaria. They're doing some contractual work on hiring some help and figuring out a better way to do outreach to the community, not so much with respect to what positions they take on health issues, but how good a job they do or don't do in communicating those actions in advance so that people are well informed and hopefully minimize some of the miscommunication that we've seen in the past. Thanks.
Commissioner Mullen?
Had the Pasco Chamber of Commerce meeting today. Also working with Franklin County resident Ann Craig Ergman to establish the 2,4-D spraying boundary lines. That currently the boundary lines are set on road names that no longer exist, and so this will be a beneficial action to get those boundary lines clearly marked and designated so everyone knows exactly where the boundaries are. So Ben Franklin Transit update. September marks the first month that fixed rate route ridership has exceeded the pre-pandemic numbers. Just want to mention if we have any hunters in the crowd or people that are just concerned about game, there is a game commission meeting in Colville, October 27th, 28th, and 29th at the Colville Community College. The outline is too many predators, not enough prey. And using the Washington Fish and Game's numbers, cougars and wolves alone have killed 20,000 deer this past year. So if you have any concerns or questions about that, you can either contact me later or just give me a call and I'll give you the information on that. And that is it for this week.
So my week consisted of budget last Thursday, the monthly budget meeting, Hanford community meeting, emergency management meeting. I did not make the Ben Franklin Transit. There was a conflict. And then the FEMA drill was today for a release at Hanford if we were to have a release of radioactivity. And I think that the drill went really well. Mr. Davidson was there with me, and he was pretty impressed with the way they handled the whole situation. Very well. They are schooled up well, coached up well, and it went really well, I thought. What were your thoughts?
I was very impressed by the organization and how well orchestrated it all was and how well it operated and how many volunteer hours go into that. It was highly impressive. And then they served us a good lunch, which is always a good way to end the meeting. So that was very good. And if I can just take liberties just to announce it, I'm sure the board members know, but if they haven't, to remind them to send condolences. Representative Jim Walsh has always been he was a big mentor to me when I was at the state, and his wife tragically was a head-on collision. He's from the 19th, Grays Harbor County, mother of 5, and lost her life last night. So condolences to her again.
Yes, Jim Walsh's wife.
Jamie.
He-
Yeah.
Thank you. So with that, it moves us down to the first public comment. Is there anybody in the room or on the phone? Is there anybody on the phone for public comment?
No one on the phone.
Anybody in the room?
I want to take this chance because this is likely to be the last, well, this is the last night meeting before the election. The last night meeting before the end of the year. I want to take the opportunity to tell Commissioner Didier thank you. 4 years ago, you ran on campaign promises. And in the last 4 years, you've worked very diligently to not only fulfill those campaign promises, but more. These night meetings were one of your campaign promises, and you see where it's at. When we were going through, when we were sued with the frivolous lawsuit, while everybody else said surrender, you fought. You and Mr. Mullen both. And we won, even though everybody else said that we couldn't. Thank you for that. When we were being imposed with multiple mandates, you fought. I don't know how many businesses that saved. I don't know how many jobs that saved, but you fought, and thank you. 4 years ago, you were elected to be a commissioner for the entire county, but you were selected by our district to represent our district. Instead of being a legislator, instead of being a leader, you've been a representative. And that's what government's about in the United States. Thank you for being a representative. Thank you for all that you've done, and I hope that you'll get a chance for another 4 years to do the same.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Nobody on the phone, Keith?
No.
Okay, we'll move down to the closed record public hearing.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. We do have one caller on the phone.
Okay, well, hold on a second.
Caller, go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me, commissioners?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Jan Nish. I live in Pocatello, Idaho, and I'm visiting here. And I was wondering if you had heard about Operation Greenlight for the veterans. It's a program being promoted by the National Association of Counties.
Caller, this is a public comment period for which you can make your public statement. It's not an interaction with the board, so I apologize for the...
Okay, then let me
Yeah, please go
Let
ahead.
me just explain. The NACO is asking all the counties in the nation to shine green lights on their buildings to.
You still there, caller? We might have lost you.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
It seems like there's a delay in the feed.
Yeah, there will be, so it's probably best to turn off your sound so you're not trying to listen to yourself.
Oh, okay, that would help. So they're asking the counties to shine green lights from the county buildings from Monday the 7th of November through 13th of November, that Sunday bracketing Veterans Day. And I don't think they've gotten the word out very good, so I was just asking around if anyone had heard and no one seemed to. The whole idea is to help veterans find the benefits, and there is your marvelous Columbia Basin Veteran Center that you have setting up and stuff, and so it's a way to help these veterans deal with transitioning out of the military or with their aging conditions and connect with all the benefits they've already earned. And so I was just commenting to see if you had heard yet. You can find the information on the NACO site if you're interested.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's something we should look into, the 7th through the 13th.
And there's actually a sample resolution from NACO on the website, so we can print that too.
Good deal. Okay, is there anybody else for public comment? Nobody else on the phone, Keith?
No.
Okay, then we'll move forward to the closed record hearing, public hearing, CUP 2022-07, a major, to allow for major adjustment to previously approved feedlot. And at this time, I'll open the closed record hearing.
Thank you, Chair. This is a request by Case Vandermeulen back in, well, can't remember, was it last year? Or was it earlier this year? Yeah. Earlier this year, he requested the siting of a feedlot on his property. He is now asking that he be allowed to move that to a different spot on his property. That's and expand the footprint of it a little bit, but the head count is proposed to stay the same. The address is 2270 Joyce Road. Parcel numbers are 109-220-022 and 109-220-013. Zoning is agricultural production 20. Comp plan is an agricultural designation, and the property size is total is 480.58. Located south of Highway 395, north of Joyce Road, and north of Cordis Road. Under our process, when you make a major amendment to a conditional use, it pretty much goes through the same as a brand new, the same process. So that's why we're here. It has gone for hearing and everything else up to this point. Total area to be used is approximately 53 acres. And the site plan included the area in which the proposal will be located, photos depicting fencing type, feed bunks, concrete slab features, the existing feed lot, existing homes, and the existing well house. I keep hearing a hum sound. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. So this is roughly the original location of, and he is now proposing to move it over here, and it will actually, under this proposal, kind of straddle both those properties. And this is that again. Originally here, he's moving it over there. I apologize, this is what we received from the applicant. It's a little hard to see, but it's a rough, especially in this setting, but it's a breakdown of the various corrals and the proposed fencing arrangements that he is seeking to use, I guess, alleys in between those, in the rough layout of the facility or the feedlot. This is what the property looks like currently. There isn't much out there. His dairy is about 3 miles to the southwest from this site. Yeah, about that. So on or about August 25th, 2022, staff sent notices to technical agencies, property owners within 1 mile, and advertised in the Franklin County Graphic. posted the land use action sign and registered the application in the SEPA registry as 202-204-269, registry number, sorry. We did not receive any comments, public comments during the comment period, nor did we have anybody at the hearing other than the applicant speaking regarding the matter.
Hey, Derek, would you prefer to do questions now or when you're done?
However you want, because I just realized I have a blank slide coming up, so I forgot to
time.
delete.
There's two CUPs in the agenda tonight. One of them is an MDNS and the other is a DNS, determination non-significance versus modified. This one was the DNS. Was it the other one that was a modified determination?
If I recall correctly, yes.
Okay, I guess we'll find out when we get there. And on CUPs, this one that was initially approved, is there a timeline that those have to be executed? Is there a one-year window?
Generally speaking, yes.
Because I thought I
Yeah.
heard you say at the start of this that this was amending or changing a CUP approved earlier this year, but when the resolution came up, I thought I saw 2020.
The file number, I apologize. You are correct.
Okay.
It's 2020-04. I thought that was awful.
Well,
Seemed
because I
longer
didn't
than-
remember from
yeah.
earlier this year, and to be clear, whether it was a couple of years ago or this year doesn't change my thinking with respect to whether it's, a reasonable thing to do. Just want to make sure that we're taking care of the applicant and not, creating some sort of a misstep with the state rules or anything. I wouldn't want them to get a CUP in and find out that there was some time lapse or something. So just cleaning up the administrative piece.
Right, and in some ways, that's what makes the fact.
This is a replacement one, so it sort
Yeah.
of negates that
Yeah.
concern. Okay, that helps. Thank you.
We're going to skip that line because it didn't have anything on it. So, as mentioned earlier, it's a major amendment to change the location, increase the footprint of the site that was approved through CUP 2020-04. The head count will stay the same, and now the site will be outside of the floodplain. The location was previously did technically encroach within a 100-year floodplain based on the the ravines capture the water, and those can be designated floodplains. It moves it out of that, moves it up to a higher ground, and it's about a quarter mile to the east due to the higher, and it's better due to the higher elevation and associated slopes, providing the ability to drain the runoff to a storage lagoon instead of having to pump the runoff. Planning Commission recommended findings of fact is that proposed use is in the AP 20 zoning district is in accordance with the goals policy of the county development regulations. It's in an ag area. It's an ag use. There's existing facilities, and there's not a lot other than rangeland or crop circles in the general vicinity of this place. It is across the highway and a couple miles away from Connell. They were sent comment, just in case as a courtesy, even though they're outside of the comment area. Again, as mentioned, no public comments. We got some agency comments, but nothing from the public on that.
So Derek, and let's stay in the record here, so please don't answer outside the record, but my recollection from this one is that to the east, there's even less than there is at the original proposed site, and that there were some road issues and access that I think have probably been worked out. Maybe that's what's driving this, I don't know. But the question is the new location any substantially closer to any private residences or other activities than the original site? I know there's sort of a blanket statement that it, won't adversely affect public infrastructure.
That's what I'm trying to think.
I'm not aware of anything out there.
Yeah, I think it actually moves it closer to the applicant's house.
Well,
So I don't know if that matters.
Moves it a
but
little farther from the freeway, doesn't it?
It does move it away a little bit from again, it's a quarter-mile shift away from, it's heading east, away from the freeway.
But it's not, the new location let me ask it this way. Is there anything about the new location that puts it in closer proximity to people who might be affected by lights, noise, odor, et cetera?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. I didn't think so, but you're more familiar with the
Yeah,
new site,
yeah,
so,
it's-
okay, thanks.
It should, the proposal will not adversely affect public infrastructure, will be constructed, maintained, and operated, to be in harmony with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity. Location and the height of the structure, there's not really much height to the structures. They're just some sun covers, some feeding bins, and fencing is primarily what it is. In fact, the only things that are going to really require potentially building permits are the sun covers. Everything else is most likely not going to trigger that, or if they put restrooms in. Operation connection. Oh, yeah. And it shouldn't discourage the development of permitted uses on property in the general vicinity. This is a right to farm area as well. So as long as they maintain their proper standards with the facility, there shouldn't be issues. The operation in connection with the proposal will not be more objectionable. Again, it's moving a quarter mile to the east, but the proposed use is no different than what was proposed before.
Yeah, and if I could, that's why I asked the question, because these findings of fact speak to, is it more objectionable than other approved uses in that area?
Right.
And my question was, is it more objectionable than the original site? It's
And
a subtle but important difference, given issues we've had in that part of the county with other industries.
yeah, I mean, we're based on what we can see, it's a preferred site. It's a preferred location
Yeah,
than
it actually
the original siting.
Seems to make sense, yeah.
And it won't endanger the public health, safety, and general welfare if located where proposed. So, some of the conditions to help deal with some of these potential concerns is they are going to have to get something from the Franklin Conservation District Board to allow for a deviation from the dairy separation buffer, basically you get too many dairies, feedlots, things like that clustered in too big of an area. I guess it can compound or make issues worse. So we have a code that there's a separation standard. However, for example, up towards Radar Hill, because of the geology up there, you have two dairies that are less than, I think it's 5 mile separation, but I could be wrong on that, and I apologize. It's either 3 or 5. But because there's a ridge line in between them, they're effectively separated. The wind and stuff, it doesn't combine, it keeps them separate. Again, this was a requirement under the original CUP as well. Did you have a question, sir?
No.
Oh, okay. Continued compliance with the Washington State Department of Agriculture's requirements for dairy nutrient management plans, including updating the requirements of the existing and approved plan. So he's already got a plan, but he's going to have to modify it to reflect the new location and the new footprint. Comply with the Washington State Department of Ecology's applicable permit requirements, including air and water quality standards. Establish and comply with an odor and fly control plan consistent with Franklin County Resolution 2001-238. And this would be approved by the Franklin County. So when they're going to talk to them about the deviation, they'll also be working with them on getting this to make sure everything's done the way it needs to be done. Inadvertent discovery protocols shall be followed at a minimum should archaeological materials be found on the site, and that's basically, they're not expecting to do a lot of, most of this is going to be surface work, but if they do have an inadvertent discovery, as all developments are required, they will have to comply with the laws pertaining to archaeological resources. But we're not recommending a requirement of a full archaeological study of the site. And a drainage system shall be designed to capture and dispose of stormwater runoff on site. New facilities such as barns, pen areas, parlor expansions will need to be established as the headcount number increases over time. So right now, he doesn't really, I don't think he's got any animals out there now, and he's not going to start with 10,000. It's going to build over time and be capped at 10,000. So as those occur, they'll have new construction, and they'll have to they'll be required to abide by the county building division, basically meet the building code. Then at the discretion of the local fire officials, they'll either, they'll be okay with it the way it is, or they'll have to put in like the 20,000 gallon fire suppression system, these types of things, which are required of all of our ag uses. We make the initial, they must have fire suppression. Sometimes, though, because of the facility in question or the assets that the fire district have, they will say, no, we're good. We can take it out of a canal or something like that. But we leave, again, that fire departments are the fire experts, so we leave the requirements for that to them. And then they'll have to comply with the requirements of Franklin County Public Works. Are there any questions at this point? Okay.
Well, I have a question. On the previous cup, was there any work done on that ground?
I don't believe so. I don't know that he got to that point. We don't know. I don't know. Because once we released the conditional use permit, no permits were submitted for.
Oh, there was no permit
Not that I'm aware of. Not for this specific site. The Vandermeulen properties, yes, there's been stuff out at the dairy, minor modification, things like that, but not at this specific facility that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And suggested motion.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Hearing no other discussion, I will close the closed record hearing and entertain a motion.
Move for approval of Franklin County Board of Commissioners adopting 6 findings of fact, 12 conditions of approval as recommended by the Planning Commission as provided for in a resolution and provide case file as presented 2022-07, SEPA 2022-22.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second for Cup 2022-07, SEPA 2022-22. All in favor say aye.
Before we vote, Derek,
Yes, sir.
I just want to be real clear on one thing. You said that this CUP is essentially a replacement for the one done in 2020. So the process covered all the CUP requirements, not just the ones for the new location. In other words, this would stand alone as its own CUP.
Yes.
Okay, that's what you said earlier. I just wanted to be sure that this wasn't some skinny down version that only looked to the changes. It has to cover it all because the old one probably is expired.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
yep.
that's good. Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll move down to the closed record hearing, public hearing. Cup 2022-08 to allow for the construction of the Pasco Resource Recovery Center. And at this time, I'll open the closed record hearing.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is this is an interesting proposal. Thankfully, the applicants are actually here because it's a very technical process, and they are here to answer questions if you have them. Your packet came with a link to substantial data. They provided a lot of technical data, about 300 pages worth, and that is all part of the record. So, conditional use permit, CUP 2022-08. So, and forgive me, I often forget the different acronyms, but this is the facility that the city of Pasco uses to process the water that is used then on crops. This is the subject area of this application. And what it is they're going to be building a plant or a facility that will effectively capture waste gases, convert those into what are sometimes called biogas, or I guess it's a biogas facility. It's the shorthand for this thing. But there's more to it. They're putting in agitators. Those create fumes. Those fumes those fumes are captured. It's converted to natural gas, connected to a Williams pipeline, and goes into the system. Address is 957 East Foster Road, parcel number 113-090-055. The zoning is agricultural production 20, comp plan designations agricultural, and the entire site's property size is 82.49 acres. It's located east of Highway 395, north of Foster Wells Road, and west of Blasdell Road. The area to be used is approximately 28.6 acres of the western portion of the property. And this facility is called the Pasco Resource Recovery Center. The other one's got it's the Pasco Water Reclamation Facility or Reuse Facility. Process water. I just can't keep track of all the acronyms. I apologize. The site plan they provided, ADI BVF digesters. It showed the location of those. That agitates the water. 8-foot chain link fence, access maintenance road, location to biogas flare and blowers, covered EQ tank. I apologize, I don't know what EQ stands for. Parking and building, access, control buildings, sequencing batch reactors, and the location of the existing City of Pasco facilities. That's the assessor's photo. That's the pump house for the existing facility. This is the actual site, what it looks like, where they are looking to do the reclaim facility. So on or about August 25th, 2022, staff sent notices to technical agencies, property owners within 1 mile, Franklin County Graphic, posted a pending land use action sign on the property, and entered it into the SEPA registry as 202-204-270. No public comments were received during the comment period. We did receive a comment from the Port of Pasco supporting the project, which was submitted on or about October 4th, the day of the public hearing. Those comments were provided to the Planning Commission as well that evening. So, okay, yeah, so it's called the Pasco Resource Recovery Center, which is adjacent to the processed water reuse facility. It updates the water pretreatment function of the PPWRF to capture natural gases produced at the facility, converts said gas to usable natural gas using 2 anaerobic digesters, 2 sequential batch reactors, a gas upgrade system, gas compressors, and a gas pipeline connection to an offsite interconnect with the natural gas facility. Or, I'm sorry, an offsite interconnect natural gas facility. That's actually one thing. Main function of the facility are to reduce odors, produce renewable natural gas from biogas, and provide nitrogen removal for industrial food processors. And based upon information provided by the applicant, the project will be a net benefit due to a reduction of greenhouse gases being released to the atmosphere, a reduction in odors, and the production of renewable natural gas. Proposed use in the AP 20 zoning district is in accordance with the goals, policies of county development regulations. This type of facility does require a conditional use permit to site out in the ag zones, which they've applied for, but it is a listed conditional use. Proposal will not adversely affect public infrastructure. In fact, some would say it may improve it. The proposal will be constructed, maintained, and operated to be in harmony with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity. Again, as mentioned earlier, it will end up reducing any odors generated from the facility, and it will be built to be integrated or similar to the existing facility that's out there now. So it would just look kind of like an extension of that. The location and height of the structure site will not discourage the development of permitted use on property, just for the same reason I just articulated. It's just going to be built into part of that facility. Operation in connection with the proposal will not be more objectionable. Again, as mentioned, this actually should reduce odors and anything like that. There's no talking about flashing. The flares, the gas flares and stuff like that, we're going to ask the applicant if you have questions regarding how that all works. I'm not a gas guy. The proposal will not endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare if located where proposed. And suggested conditions are, as you know, always the best management practice is to minimize dust during construction shall be used. Inadvertent discovery protocols shall be followed at a minimum. However, they may have to go above and beyond that based on specific funding sources or whatnot. But for us, it's already a developed site, or it's a site in proximity to development, and to do a full-blown survey we believe, or we recommended and the planning commission agreed would be excessive. Application for Franklin County building permit shall be submitted for the fencing and the structures. This has to do with the fact that it's an 8-foot fence and it's a commercial. Commercial fences require permits. Residential ones, because they're capped at 6 foot, I guess, don't require them. They will need to comply with other local, state, and federal regulations pertaining to this development, and they'll have to comply with the requirements of Franklin County Public Works. Are there any questions at this time?
Questions, commissioners?
Derek, I can't really think of a reason why, but I'm just curious, was there coordination with FAA? It was with the port, and they own the airport, so I'm assuming if it was required, they would have done it. I just got started thinking about the flares, and how many miles is this east of 395? Like a mile and a half, 2 miles? Is it that far?
Yeah, I believe, I'm trying to remember if that, I think that's about.
Less than a mile.
No, it's, yeah, yeah, so there's
I'm
395,
just-
there's
yeah.
the facility.
Let's just get, it's far enough away that even if the flares were pretty tall, I can't imagine it being an aviation concern or impediment, but it is in that general area where traffic going into 2-1 left and right.
Any other questions?
We normally do coordinate with FAA, like on these structures that are within, a mile or two of the airport. That's
Yeah.
what really prompted the question. But I'm not seeing anything that I can think of that would really be a conflict, but
Yeah, when especially if we start getting into structures that are over 80 feet, this I don't believe anything in this is proposed at that high. But regardless, notice is sent to the port.
well, any traffic out there is a couple thousand feet anyway. And I was
Yeah.
thinking more about night
Yeah,
and
the
flares and light.
Yeah, light,
But
night vision.
I don't really
That
foresee
that
it.
would that is something we can definitely make sure is.
You might just
looked
touch
at.
base with the port and just make
Yep.
sure, that we're with the airport. I don't think it's an issue, I really don't, but I know we've had similar concerns north of the airport and also to the west with the rising terrain and the height of structures. We've got height limits in there
Right.
for similar concerns. Okay, thank you.
And what are the purpose of the flares?
If I may, I would ask the applicant to speak to that.
Please,
I think I know, but I don't want to go there.
to the mic, please. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Walker Dimig. So the flares, what we're doing there is we're taking wastewater from the food processors and putting it in anaerobic digesters to treat that. That produces naturally, as part of the process, biogas. Oftentimes that biogas is just burned off, flared off. So if you look over at like the Port of Sunnyside, that's what they do. We're actually converting that biogas into natural gas, putting it into the Williams pipeline. We still need a flare. We'll have one as a safety measure. So if something were to go down that would not allow us to put the gas into the pipeline, for instance, there was a compressor that went down, you can't just build up the biogas forever. You have to burn it off. So it's a safety measure that's there for current estimates are, less than 5% of the time the plant's operating, you would have to use that flare.
So the flare isn't going to the air. It's like they got over here on 395 where they're burning off.
It's a burn.
X.
Yes, you're burning off. Yeah, you're burning
Okay.
off the gas as opposed to putting it in the pipeline, and we only have that in case there's an emergency situation where, we can't put it into the pipeline, we can't clean it up. So it's not going to be regularly used. We hope it's never used because that's lost valuable product.
Gotcha.
That the more of that we produce, the more it reduces the cost of the wastewater treatment for the processors. So
And those
so the-
flare stacks are not very tall,
not very tall. No, not very tall at
like
all. So.
50 feet
Less
max?
than that. This would be
Okay,
less than
all
that.
right, great.
We have
Thank you.
not, we're in the process of applying for our permits for that, and so they'll
That's
do
when the
modeling
coordination
to
will
tell us
do.
exactly how high it needs to be, but it will not need to be that tall.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So is there any other questions?
How much increased water is going to be pumped up there?
Is it this phase that they're going to be increasing the water flows up there?
You might want to stay at the mic.
Yeah, yeah.
The entire Dairygold facility will be going up there. So that's one of the impetuses for this facility, is that Dairygold had nowhere to put their wastewater. The facility is at maximum capacity, the current PWRF, and so that's why we're building this plant. It'll enable Dairygold to build their plant and send their wastewater, and it'll enable, of the other 5 processors, I believe 4 of them are going to go through various expansions. So the total capacity, I think, will increase by 30 to 40% over the life of the project in terms of how much water is going up. But we'll be able to apply that water to a similar amount of land that the city currently applies it to, because we're removing nitrogen from it. We're treating the water so that we're not harming the groundwater by overloading it with nitrogen. That's the main constraint up there for taking more wastewater, is that the city can't continue to put more water on its fields without being outside of its permits. So we're going to allow some expansion. So I don't know the exact number, it was about 30-40% increase in volume over the life of the project.
And that includes Reese's new project,
Yes.
all of the projects.
Yes, and several other processors have expansions. It's interesting, as we worked through this, expansions came out of, they decided, we'd like to, expand this line a little bit. Can we get a little more capacity? So as we designed it, there were more requests to build out a little further. So,
And this will eliminate the odor out there, because I've had some constituents complain years past about the odor on Foster Wells Road.
yes. So digesters, they're covered, because we want to capture the biogas they create, they're covered. And so they treat that material inside, the wastewater and all the organic material breaks down inside the digester. So the material that comes out has far less odor than it did coming in. And so right now they don't do that. Right now the facility just either directly land applies the wastewater, or it puts it into ponds and stores it in the winter. And unfortunately then you're storing untreated water. So we'll be treating all the wastewater that comes up there, and it'll all have less odor. So it's undoubtedly will reduce the amount of odor taking place up there.
Good deal.
So obviously it's covered, that's how you capture the gas, it's domed, I'm presuming. The incoming water then is above ambient temperature? It's already warm, or is that part of the process is warming? I asked, we did a very similar project at, I think it's 5D Farms, the dairy just on the west side of the recreation area, Juniper Dunes. And that was a very large lagoon, and it was runoff water, so, from washing dairy stalls, it didn't have any real heat in it.
Right.
And that obviously created some issues with gas generation. So with this project, is there additional heat, or is the inflow coming in already carrying some heat that contributes? I mean, it's an anaerobic digester, I would think, because we found that we produced almost no gas in the winter because of the temperature curve.
Yeah, so the answer is kind of both. The water it is warm coming out of the facilities. It does lose some of that heat on the journey up there. It's quite a ways up there.
Sure.
So we will be heating the digesters some to keep them at temperature because, as you've found, that if you don't keep them, they're living environments. You're using bugs to break down
Sure.
material, and so you want to keep them at a right temperature. So we'll have some heating going on up there to keep them at the right wastewater treatment temperature so that they're doing their job.
And you're going to heat the water with electricity or some of the gas you're producing, or Williams natural gas, or all the above?
We're looking at a number of different proposals right now. The current base design is using natural gas to heat the digesters because it's the most kind of known, kind of cost-effective way to do that. But we actually are evaluating putting in heat pumps instead. Or you can also do electric boilers. We think that's probably not going to be the most economic path. But what we like to do is we're going to go ahead and permit it with the natural gas boilers because would be more energy intensive, and so we want to make sure we're getting approval at that level, knowing that we can improve it from there. So we hope to reduce some of the gas consumption at the facility as we go into more detailed design.
Yeah.
It's a great question, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
But you do have alternatives because there is a war being waged on natural gas now as being unfriendly to the environment.
Certainly, yeah. And one of the, what we do with this gas, the reason it's called renewable natural gas is because it's gas that's otherwise wasted, emitted.
Methane.
The dairy project that Commissioner Peck was talking about on dairies.
5D Farms.
Yeah, we do things like that as well, where these lagoons are releasing methane. That's natural gas. And so what our company likes to do is find those resources, recover them, and put them into the system so that we can use all of our existing infrastructure, but just find better ways to recover resources and keep using them. So,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No. So at this time, I'll close record hearing and entertain a motion. It's on the screen, Rocky.
Move that Franklin County Board of County Commissioners adopt the 6 findings of fact and 10 conditions of approval recommended by the Planning Commission as provided and for the resolution and approved case file CUP 2022-08, SEPA 2022-24 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for CUP 2022-08, SEPA 2022-24. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll move down to the administration office business.
Just one item for you to consider tonight. We have annually reviewed the contract that we have with Potts and Associates. Zach Kennedy, who is the principal there, has sent us some information on the upcoming legislative session and what they anticipate. There's a number of questions still outstanding about what kind of personal attendance will be available. There's some questions from the legislative staff apparently about finding access to housing in Olympia. So there's a number of questions that won't be answered until after the election when legislators are available to make those determinations following the direction of their leadership. But they do anticipate an in-person session this year, and a number of bills that are coming before the legislature that will affect Franklin County. They are following those items pretty closely. The contract that we have with them is a annual contract for $5,280. They've offered us to be able to pay that monthly or quarterly or annually, whatever's convenient to us. And certainly want to answer any questions you may have, but offer that for your consideration.
So Keith, I've got a question. I know we've been dealing with Potts and Associates for 4 years since I've been here. I was just curious, who else is being represented, counties or identities by them?
Yeah, do you want to answer that? Because I know you spoke to Zach on the phone.
I had the opportunity, Zach just called me today to see if we had everything we needed, and I asked him for a client list. It's pretty impressive when it comes to representation of eastern Washington counties: Franklin, Ferry, Pend Oreille, Okanagan, Grant, Whitman, Lincoln, Klickitat, and the Port of Royal Slope. So he does have an impressive list, and he seemed very astute to issues that affect eastern Washington counties in particular. So
Okay,
his
thank
current
you.
client list.
Any other questions?
I have no questions. I find their service really beneficial, so. I don't have any other questions.
So what do we need here? Just a consensus?
Just approval to sign the contract, if you wouldn't mind taking just a floor vote, and we can have the paperwork for
Need
you
a
to sign.
motion then.
I'll make the motion that we hire Zach Kennedy with Potts and Associates and honor their contract that they've sent out, so.
Second?
Been a motion, a second, for the contract of Zach Kennedy and Associates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the next item on the agenda has been taking off since they could not get the safe open out at Hapo. The petty cash from Hapo Center has been taken off because they couldn't get the safe open, so we'll have to address that another day.
We've hired a locksmith that we thought they'd be able to have that done by today, but they weren't able to meet our schedule, so we'll bring that back at a future meeting.
So next we'll move
We're
down.
being careful. The safe does have historical, I mean, it's a good safe, so we want to.
Oh, it
We don't want to
is?
just, yeah, we don't want to just blow it up.
Safe's probably worth more than petty cash.
Yeah, the safe is worth more than the petty cash inside.
All
Is what I'm
right.
trying to say, yeah.
That's the truth answer right there.
So we'll move down to public comment. Is there anybody for public comment?
I do have one caller on the phone, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Go ahead, caller, you have 3 minutes.
Hasn't answered yet.
Go ahead, caller, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Well, I guess where I would start is that the local elections are coming up, and that includes the judiciary branch. And I think it's extremely relevant that the public understand that a particular candidate for Franklin County District Judge, Trinity Orozco, has a contempt for the disabled. In May of 2019, as a disabled individual, I asked Trinity Orozco, as my court-appointed lawyer, to recognize my disability under Rule 33, which, according to that Access to Washington's PDF and the 79-page document, they cannot refuse your access to the court because you're disabled. That is enforced, in fact, a form of discrimination. Trinity Orozco stated, "You're mentally ill, and I'm going to conduct a 1077 mental health evaluation." From that point forward, every record contained a mental illness instead of a disability. Therefore, I was forced out of court. And if you just do a quick Google search on the phrase, "She skipped a TriMet fair and she spent 183 days in custody," do that Oregon Live, and you'll find out that it's a common practice between judges and prosecutors to dismiss people as mentally ill. And you'll find out a single woman spent over 100 days in custody being evaluated for mental illness, while every doctor she's seen, the whole time she was there, said she had no mental illness. But time and time again, the court abused her. And now she has been unable to function in her basic life because of the abuse brought forth by the court. And I can tell you this same behavior happens in Franklin County, and the three county commissioners sitting there, Brad Peck, Clint Didier, and the other gentleman, all know about it and were made aware of it months before anything was filed in court, and they ignored it because they're complacent. And our community needs to know that the good old boy network and corruption is positively enforced in Franklin County. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, is there any other business for the good of the county?
There is. I need to have a very short closed session to discuss some collective bargaining arrangements.
Okay.
Shouldn't take but about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, yeah.
Just
Okay.
one question. How are we coming in with the Wilson House?
We met with the auctioneer, and they are moving forward with it. We should hopefully have it done by the middle of December.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for attending. We're going to move into a closed record hearing, or a
Just a closed session with the
Closed
board.
session.
It's not covered under the OPMA, so.
okay.
Would ask that the members of the board, Dwayne and myself, clerk, and the HR director be allowed to
Yep.
participate in that discussion.
Attorney's back there too.
I don't know that they're needed for this.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we can do it in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Sam, you're more than welcome to sit down here. Okay, we've come out of closed session and we're back to regular session. Is there any other business for the good of the county? Hearing none?
I think it seems fitting that this is, I believe, the last meeting that Mr. Johnson is going to be joining us for. It would be more than remiss if we didn't take a minute and acknowledge his service. I was fortunate enough to be here when he was hired. I was a strong supporter of selecting him, and with the benefit of 7 years of hindsight, I would say I think it was an excellent decision. I think he has served the county with distinction and has been a real asset. It is no secret to any of us that there have been occasions when not everyone on the board has agreed with him, and perhaps vice versa. But I think the mark of a real professional is when they go through those kinds of tumultuous times where they're lambasted and accused of various things and attempts to fire him in public without notice on multiple occasions. It takes a real true professional to stand up to that and to do it in a respectful, professional manner. And that's what I saw from Mr. Johnson. So I want to extend my personal thanks for what I think has been exceptionally fine service to the people of Franklin County and to the county, and have already acknowledged your professionalism in the role, which I will just flat out say there's no way I could have mustered the same level of professionalism. I would have given them reason to fire me by the time I was done talking. You, sir, on the other hand, were a true gentleman and a professional throughout, and I have tremendous respect for your service and the way you've handled things. So thank you so much, and I hate to see you leave.
Thank you.
Keith, I wish you all the best, and thank you for your service here at Franklin County.
Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure to work with you.
I just want to say thanks, Keith. And I just want to say I can't wait to see you down there with those grandchildren enjoying their time and their participation in athletics, because family is the most important thing.
Absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure to call Franklin County my home, and we're going to certainly miss it, miss the friendships and relationships we've built here, and we do look forward to the next adventure, being closer to family and having some experiences out of state. But we will certainly keep track of what's going on in Franklin County and wish you the very best. But thank you for the opportunity to have served here.
As we were always told in the NFL on kickoff squad, keep your head on a swivel.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr.
And
Davidson.
I would be remiss if I didn't also join in here serving as just the interim to bridge a gap. I can tell you that Keith has been exceptionally good to work with and brief me and bring me. We've done tours of the county, met with department heads to get the briefings. But a lot of the people I knew already, but that vital reconnection to learn about what's big issues happening have been very, very helpful to me. He's been keeping me briefed on everything, although at times it seems like it's been like holding a fire hose up and pulling the pail back. I mean, that's what it's more like it's been, but he's been very, very helpful, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
So good luck,
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
and thank you. Is there any other business for the good of the county? Hearing none, this meeting